Chapter 2 of Shar Yichud. Chapter 1, we spoke about the Word of God that needs to be constantly in creation. If the Word of God were to be taken out for but a moment, all of creation would cease to exist. It would go back to its original state of nothingness. What do we mean nothingness? We don't mean a black hole, because that's something. It's a black hole. Nothingness is something that we have no what's the word I'm looking for? No awareness of, no understanding of, because it's the way the world was before there wasn't even a mustard seed. Before the Big Bang, before whatever you want to call it. Only God. It would revert back to its original state of being. The Alter Rebbe continues with this idea. And let me just make sure connection is good. Yeah, no one's saying any problems here. Okay, wonderful. Chapter 2 in one word, mahave, to bring into being. So the Alter Rebbe says, with what we've just explained, we can now give an answer to what he calls heretics. Heretics does not mean people who don't believe in God. People who believe in God, but they have a heretical understanding of God. They understand God in their own terms. In other words, I'm human, well, then I'm going to understand God in human terms. Just as I am, so must he be, right? And of course, that's doesn't make sense. But since the human condition is the only condition that we know of, the world as we know it is the only world that exists in our perception, so it must be that everything of creation must be of the same nature. So what is the nature of this world? The nature of this world is that all we can do is mold and shape something into something else. So you can take a cup, some grape juice, bottled grape juice, right? So just imagine this is a silver goblet. My apologies, should have brought one. So this is a silver goblet. What did the silversmith do? He took silver that's malleable, that is heated up, and therefore it's malleable, and it could be shaped into a goblet that you could make Kiddush on Friday night. That's all he can do, is take something to make some and mold and shape it into something else. But that's not what God does. God is capable, and only God is capable, of creating something from literally nothing. God didn't start with something and then from that something malleably made a world, as we all know and love. He made from literally nothingness into something. Now, how could we understand that? Because that's not something in our capability to truly understand it. We can understand that God has that capability. Now, what is, so, okay, sounds good. So what's the big deal? What's the difference? Well, the difference is like this. I'm the silversmith for all intents and purposes. I made this goblet, right? Now that I made this goblet, here I place it. It's separate from me. It's not dependent on me anymore. As a matter of fact, not only it's not dependent on me, but now I own it, I could sell it. I could give it away. So it's not even mine afterwards. It's completely independent of me. Yes, maybe, someone who's got a good eye could tell who this world-renowned silversmith is from the goblet, because they're a collector of such, kiddish cups. But that's the best you can do. It's totally independent of its maker once it's made. Heaven and earth isn't that way. I'm not that way. God is constantly, the Word of God is constantly being created, something from nothing, and is being breathed into me, the breath of life, the breath of actually existence. What is that breath? The Word of God. The Word of God. Now, the Alter Rebbe gives a beautiful metaphor that we can have an appreciation of this. He says this is even greater than the miracle of the splitting of the sea. Now, for the Jewish people, the splitting of the sea, I mean, that was, heavy duty. That was a great miracle. The truth is, creation itself is a much greater miracle. No comparison. What happened by the splitting of the sea? Water that has a nature that God created with, right? There's no such thing as, oh, water flows. No, water doesn't flow. God gave it the nature that it should flow. He creates that. But, okay, that's its nature. God-given nature. It flows. And what did God do? Made it stand like a wall so the Jewish people could pass through and be saved. How did he do that? Well, God can do anything, but the way he did it is he made a easterly wind blow very, very strong that it split the water. Perfect timing when the Jews needed it. Of course, God's in control. How's he in control? From the upstairs, he's pulling some puppeteering, No. He's giving life right now. He's giving existence right now to the water, that it should exist, to the water, that it should exist with a nature of flowing at this very moment. And now he brings an easterly wind to blow very strongly to make it split and stand like a wall. Now, with that metaphor, we can understand that the moment the easterly wind stopped blowing, what happened to the waters? It went back from acting like a wall, and now didn't stand anymore, but they flowed like as they regularly did. And that's how the Egyptians, of course, got drowned, and the Jews got saved. But what's the metaphor over here? As long as the easterly wind was blowing, there was a change only in the nature of water. It was still water. It was still wet, right? It still was H2O, right? The nature of that water just changed to stand like a wall rather than flowing. By the way, it can also change at other times. It can evaporate or it can freeze, right? In any case, with that we have an understanding that as long as the Word of God is constantly within the created being, it exists. What is that word? Ata mechaya is kulam. You, God, the word ata, means you, referring to God over here. You give life to all. You give existence to all. You bring everything into being. The word Ata is Aleph, Taf, Hey. Aleph is the first letter of the ABCs, of the Aleph base. Taf is the last letter of the Aleph base. So it means you, God, bring into existence from the first letter to the last letter, of course all the letters in between, all 22 letters, with a Hey at the end. Hey is numerical value of 5. With the 5, broadcast is freezing, shoot. Hey, connection is good. I'm sorry, we just choppy. Weak Wi-Fi. Let me see. Excuse me. If I open the door here, if it's going to give me stronger Wi-Fi. Okay. I don't think that this is going to work. I'm going to have to figure out something better. I thought I got better Wi-Fi. I guess it's not enough. Let me know if this is better, just with opening the door, that it's a better connection. Sorry. So, ata, so the hey in the word ata, numeric value of 5, because it's the fifth letter in the aleph base, refers to the 5 functions of speech. What are the 5 functions of speech? Mouth, teeth, tongue, palate, and larynx. Those are the 5 things that are necessary to make an aleph base, right? You're using different parts of the mouth to vocalize. So this is a vocalization, as it were, of God's speech. Using speech, the letters of the aleph base, God brings everything into existence. And this is what the Torah says. God spoke, right? Vayomer Hashem, Vayidaber Hashem. Now, of course, when we speak about the speech of God, it's not human speech as we know it, right? It's not the way I speak, but it is communication. It's the ultimate form of speech, God's speech. As a matter of fact, where else does God speak? To prophets. He communicates to them. Also through words of communication to them. What's the difference between the speech to prophets that God communicates and the speech of God that he communicates to create me, create a stone, to create, the galaxies? Is that the speech to prophets is not vested into many garments, that the communication is hidden. But the way it is in this world, it is hidden, which will be the next chapter. We'll bring out that idea. We'll start at least to bring out that idea. So, this, yesh mi yesh, something from something, independent of its maker. This and the world around us and you are totally dependent on our maker. Every moment he is bringing me into existence, ex nihilo, something from nothing. It is a greater miracle, a stone that exists in this world, than the splitting of the sea. The splitting of the sea, again, was just changing the nature of the sea, that it didn't flow. It stood like a wall. That nature changed once the easterly wind stopped blowing. But that a stone should exist, it only exists because Ata Mechaya, because you, God, are, through your letters, your speech, your communication, are constantly communicating from you to the created thing. And because it's constantly vested within there, if it were to be returned to its source, if it were to be removed, it would no longer exist. So constantly God is enclosed within the Word of God is constantly enclosed within creation, bringing it into existence. How dependent are we on God? Of God? Total. No, there's nothing else that's comparable to that in all of existence. All right. Yes, I hope it does get resolved. I might have to change. Please leave me more messages and let me know if at the end was better. Yesterday was better. Yesterday I used my phone. Now I'm using my computer, and I thought my computer actually was better. All right, folks. Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from my home in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day.